Hello, I think everything is working. Everything seems to be working. Hello, Lenny. So yeah, dev server, and quite an interesting one at that. So, as usual with my dev server little streams, I'll just go over all the new ships first, then over any other changes I notice, and afterwards we can look at things in depth, basically. So, the new boats on the dev server are this, starting off with this, the PT-95, American coastal boat. 20 on the rear, 2 dual 50 cals, 2 torpedoes. Rank 1 coastal boat. Nothing much to say about it. Another fun boat. And to not leave all of you waiting too long, the main ticket items for this update. I'm noticing that my frames are not quite keeping up. Well, yeah. Big battleships, rank 7. And for America, that means Iowa. It's a bit difficult for me to really give you a proper description of these battleships because there's so much that's changing. First and foremost, of course, is, if you might have noticed, the maximum battle rating of 8.7. So that's a very big jump we're getting for battleships. Oh, and I've noticed what I've done wrong. Everybody, hold tight. I'll be right back, but I have done something wrong with my streaming software, so give me one moment. Are we fine? I think we should be fine again. If you don't see anything, please let me know. But everything seems to be working fine. Let me just type in the chat just to make sure. Okay, you can see stuff. Good, I fixed it. I had the wrong settings on my OBS setup. Sorry about that. I just had some wrong settings and I needed to correct it, or otherwise I'd be missing a lot of frames, which I might still be doing because temperatures are fine. But I will. Yeah, Iowa, a 8.7 battleship. 16-inch guns. I don't really know what to say about it. It's in Iowa. I believe, looking at the armor values, that it's currently not finished, because I highly doubt that the main belt is 38 millimeters. Although, does it have a layered protection system? It does have a layered protection system. There we go. Okay. So, the main belt is actually there, inside of the ship, with a 38 millimeter belt outside of it. Oh yeah, it's been quite a week. It's been one hell of a week. So yeah, 12-inch belt, a bit more, quite steeply angled by the looks of it. 90-degree slope. And some light armor plating outside of it. Ammunition-wise, there's barbat ammo, but that's American battleships for you. But yeah, it's wild. I just don't really know how to describe it, because these new battleships will so drastically change top tier that I just don't know what it'll be like anymore. And yeah, 8.7. It is after Tennessee in the tech tree, but one thing I do have to mention, it doesn't matter where in the tech tree this is, because you will need all of rank 6 before you can get rank 7. So no matter what you want to do and what line you've researched, you need all of them to get Iowa. But yeah. When it comes to barbat fires, I don't know. It's so wild. The things I've already looked at all the ships. I've looked at all of them extensively. I understand the weaknesses and things about them. But yeah. So Iowa, and without further ado, let's just take it into a test sail. And for some fun, let's turn the time of day to night, just for a little bit of fun.
Secure the ship for sea.
Let's have these guns. Give us a light show. And whilst we're looking at the AA, they actually mentioned that they have nerfed the accuracy also. So many shells that the tracers actually just disappear because God will be rendered. But yeah, that's a lot of AA. But they have nerfed AA, but I'll get back to that later. But they have nerfed AA. Also fast turret rotation. Pretty fast at least, that's good. Let's see what kind of reload we have stock. I think this is stock anyways, stock crew.
280.
Didn't really do too many preparations before the stream, but I will. Yeah, so a 40/39 second stock reload to 30-second max. It's not terrible, but it's not great. Also, as you might have noticed, new detonation effects. A lot of stuff is happening this update, and I'm happy for it. Let's see if we can get a detonation on this cruiser after we reload.
280. 7,000 meters.
Also, I have seen that comment from other people as well that they skipped a few battleship classes. I wouldn't be too worried about that because with the sheer level of decompression we just got, we are going to get those battleship classes at some point, and I think it'll be fine. But we'll see. But I do understand a little bit of concern, but I wouldn't be too worried. The other US fast battleships aren't that different to my knowledge. They do have different. They are different, obviously, but getting the Iowa before them is not that bad. Also, again, new detonation clouds. Yeah, they do fade a bit quickly. The King George V, I can also understand, but arguably the King George V is actually better than Vanguard, I'd say. Although I'm not too familiar with either of the ships. But I'd say that KGV or Vanguard are actually equal in terms of... Vanguard is actually KGV is actually slightly better in terms of protection. And gun armament-wise, I don't know. But yeah, Iowa... It's an Iowa, what can I say? It's a new ship. The pinnacle of American battleships, it's cool. All of it's cool. So we'll return to hangar. And I'll get back to aircraft later on, but I'll just go over all the new ships first before I lose track. But Iowa 8-7, and if you also might have noticed, that's a massive gap in battle ratings. Because the next highest for America is 7-3 straight to 8-7. Meaning that arguably you do not have a lineup for Iowa. But I have my own theories about that to follow later. But yeah. Germany next, with 2 new battleships. First of which being, of course, the Gneisenau, which we got in the dev blog. And which is a 70 euro... Is it 70? No, it's 80, isn't it? Euro premium? It's just... Oh. So, Gneisenau should be okay. Rate of fire is... quick. Very quick, actually. 15-inch guns should be fine. 7-7 does, of course, put you in the strike range of the big 8-7s. Armor should be pretty much identical to the Scharnhorst. Yeah, I personally wouldn't spend 80 on this battleship. It's way too expensive. And especially if, I just don't know. With this decompression and with how this will change the meta for battleships, it's really difficult to say what's going to be good, what's going to be worth it. So I don't want to really put judgment on the Gneisenau, but I wouldn't spend the full 80 for it. That I've also read Warhead, that it shouldn't have the that rate of fire. I wouldn't like to see it at 1 RPM, but we'll get back to that later. I think just the standard 30 seconds or like 32 seconds, a little bit longer would be fine. 2.6 is really quick, is a really good reload for this kind of gun. So that's... but yeah. I wouldn't pay a full price for them, but of the two, I would buy Gneisenau. It's so weird because you don't have a lineup anymore. It's weird. I wouldn't buy it. I'm going to hold off from any premium battleship, unless it's Japanese, but that's for separate reasons. But it's weird. Yeah. It's really difficult for me to get an accurate judgment on this. But I wouldn't get Gneisenau for full price. Then next up we have Bismarck, which is a little bit bugged on the dev server at the moment, since it has, 40 mil armor, and that's it. I don't think it has any... Well, it should have a turtleback, but it doesn't show any yet. It is the dev server. Things are going to be buggy, and I know for a fact that Bismarck's armor is incomplete. Yeah, but we'll get back to Roma when we get there, but that's... And Bismarck does have the same reload rate. But yeah. Yeah, cool ship, 8-3. So not top BR, but that is to be expected. The top BR battleships are Soyuz, Yamato, and Iowa, and that's definitely deserved. And these being just one notch lower makes perfect sense. But yeah, let's test sail Bismarck, I guess. There's not much to test sail about Gneisenau, because it's just a Scharnhorst with 15-inch guns.
Secure the ship for sea.
Should have pretty decent AA coverage as well. This is not the best. It's nuts. I will say, before we get onto the other ships, I am feeling incredibly positive about this update. It is... Well... I need to word it properly and not just get lost in excitement. The update itself is really big. It is the biggest naval update since New Power. I'd say hands down. But the more interesting part is what this update implies for future updates. Because this is basically it. It is the pinnacle of battleships for every single nation being added at once. It's just... yeah. So that means we have 3 more updates this year. And battleship development is practically done. Of course, there is more classes to be added lower down. But this is it. Battleships are complete. They've massively decompressed it. So the next few updates should be really, really interesting. It's a just very exciting update, not just for the update itself, but for what it promises, or well, vaguely implies for future updates. My bet is, or my gut feeling is saying, that we'll get submarines by the end of the year. I wouldn't bet on it. I don't think it's that likely, but I wouldn't be surprised if we got submarines by the end of the year. But they didn't really skip so many ships. I can understand the feeling that, like, ooh, it's shocking that we're getting the actual end of the line stuff this update, and not the few more preceding classes like KGV, the South Dakota, the North Carolina. That we're not getting those. I can understand that kind of shock, but at the same time, we will get those ships eventually, definitely. And it's weird, yeah. Yeah, but you know what the point is about getting North Carolina? Because it won't be the same battle rating as Iowa. That's going to be the point. I've seen this argument other places as well, that, oh, the North Carolina, South Dakota will be irrelevant. I don't get that point. I don't get that sentiment. I understand the worry that, oh, now this cool ship won't have its day in the limelight, and it will always be subservient to ships we already have. But they're still cool ships. Like, just because I have Yamato nowadays doesn't mean I'll never play, like, I'll never play the previous ships. Just because I had Amagi doesn't mean I won't play Mogami or Hyuga. There's always a reason to play lower BR ships, in my opinion. I can understand feeling a bit bummed out that you don't have more fast battleships, or you didn't get them and them being peak, but it's a bit of a weird sentiment to me still. Anyways, we were on to Germany, so Bismarck Gneisenau. Yep. Russia has 2 more battleships as well. Well, battlecruiser and battleship. Sevastopol, which is... yeah, I kind of like the camo, although I am a fan of blue and purple. Sevastopol does, however, suffer from the same lack of armor as Kronstadt, with ammo racks that are easily reachable, like Kronstadt. So I can understand why it's a lower BR. The fire rate is still a bit iffy. But I'm not really offended by the ship. This was a planned version of the Kronstadt. It's arguably a side grade, if anything. What BR is the Kronstadt itself? Kronstadt is also 7.3, so it's... But actually, what is the fire rate on Kronstadt exactly, according to X-Ray? So yeah, it's a side grade between do you want more and faster firing guns, or do you want heavier guns? So, it is 7.3 does mean it still faces the new top dogs for the European nations, so it sees the 8.3s, which will just kill it outright. But yeah, I'm not offended about it. It's definitely overpriced for $80 though. $80/euros. I wouldn't get it for that price at all. Because it is a side grade to Kronstadt, and Kronstadt is not that competitive anymore. And I'm not really sure with the new BRs how competitive it is, but okay. I'm missing some chat messages. Let me just read back. I wouldn't say that. But now Sovetsky Soyuz. But yeah, but the Germany and Russia being made out to be better navies. I wouldn't say that. It's just the thing about a video game like this is that ships that didn't do well historically because of a variety of reasons, though on paper actually being decent combat units, so to say, perform well in video games. That's just how it is. There are limitations to how a video game represents historical importance for navies. Germany and Russia do gain a bit out of it because they do have strong ships for a video game, especially if you include the unfinished ships. But yeah, anyways, Sovetsky Soyuz, a bit of a controversial ship, mainly because of its guns and slightly because of its armor. So it is incredibly well armored, 420 millimeters. Although with the new guns that won't matter too much. Does it have an internal thingy? Not that I can see. But yeah, what is the rate of fire? 1.6 to 2.1, so slightly sub 30 seconds. Without an ace crew, that's going to be 30 seconds. Okay. I do know, believe me, I already know all the funky stuff about this, but another controversial part is the ammo being so well placed on Soyuz. Because it's all below waterline, they're kind of small. But I do want to say, it is devserver. Things can and will change from the devserver. But who am I to... I don't know if they will, of course. But yeah, decent armor, and if we look at the shells... The SAP has 88 kilos of TNT, I believe. Yep. And pens a whopping 600 at point blank, and even at 10 kilometers, this thing could almost penetrate itself. Yeah, the AP is pretty good as well. It does lose its penetration quite quickly at range compared to the SAP. Is the muzzle velocity that different? No, they're identical. But yeah, so it's this ship is a bit controversial. I expect it to change a bit, but we'll have to see. I'm fine with its addition. I always knew that this ship was going to be introduced. Ever since they mentioned, oh, if the ship got laid down, it was going to be introduced. Sovetsky Soyuz got laid down. There are aerial photos of its hull being half finished. We should have always known that this was coming. And we already knew that the shells were a bit overperforming in paper, so meh, it is what it is. It is at 8.7, it is part of the top dogs, understandable. How it'll actually perform in real matches, I don't know. I can't test it either. I've seen a few in games, in a few matches I played on the dev server. It's fun. It's interesting. But it's just part of the top dogs. To me, the performance of Sovetsky Soyuz is not more so than Iowa or Yamato. In the few matches I've played, all of them can deal with each other pretty easily. The 8.3s have some harder times, but I believe that all the 8.7s are equal in terms of actual capabilities. I might be wrong, I might be having a bad take, but I believe that at least. But yeah, we'll have to see for that further. Then we go to Britain with only one addition being Vanguard, and of course it's after the one ship I didn't have yet, so I can't test sail it. But yeah, Vanguard, Britain 8.0, which has ruffled some feathers of some British players I know. Armor-wise is pretty decent, 14-inch belt, almost 14-inch belt. No turtleback really. The guns, however, are a bit anemic for the battle rating, I believe. Standard 30-second top. 40-second stock. That's rough. The shells, I believe, are also a bit meh. Although these ones are not bad. But this is going to struggle against the 8.7s. But again, Vanguard is an 8.0. Should be fine. Vanguard does have a very interesting anti-air suite, though, with bunch of 5.25-inch guns, and these sextuple pom-pom mounts, which we haven't seen in game before. So that is going to be pretty interesting. Good question. The magazines are below the waterline. Let me actually filter to ammo. Pretty deep. They are kind of wide, though. But these are secondary ammo, so they shouldn't do too much damage. And it's shell room above magazine, at least. But they are pretty wide, so plunging fire might actually get them. Turret rotation is slow, but that's to be expected. The British 15-inch turrets. The thing is this considered the best British BB? That's on the topic, right? I've seen a lot of non-naval players say, "Oh, naval is done. This is the end of naval development," and that is 100% wrong. Just because we are getting end-of-the-line battleships does not mean we will not get the battleships beforehand and more ships. Like, I 100% expect us to get some of those paper end-of-the-line ships, like Lion, A150, H39 still, definitely. So there's still plenty of ships to be added. So if you ever do see somebody say, "Oh, naval is done development," they're wrong, they don't know what they're talking about, obviously. But yeah, HMS Vanguard looks promising. It's a bit of a... I don't know. 8.0 is definitely... I'm going to get flagged up from somebody I know. 8.0 is the BR deserves, in my opinion. It's just... It's 8 15-inch guns. It is not that potent in terms of armament like the other boys we have at 8.3 and 8.7. So 8.0 is perfectly fine for it, in my opinion. But yeah. Let's read further because the chat is going much faster than I'm used to. So let's see. But yeah, I'm looking forward to KGV as well eventually. But yeah. Exactly. I've seen somebody complain about it being 8.0 and it not being like... I wouldn't complain about it. The lower battle rating is more handy for you. But we'll get back on battle ratings after in a little while. But yeah, that's all for Britain as of now. Then to Japan, and obviously my favorite, Yamato. The biggest battleship. So obviously, my favorite as a Japanese main. This ship is my favorite. There's no hand. It's just, yeah. The 18-inch guns, biggest guns in game and ever put on a battleship. One problem though, as you might have noticed, is its magazines going almost to its deck. Yamato really, really likes to explode nowadays. I have heard that this is a bug. I have heard that this is incorrect, this magazine placement. But we'll see. We'll see when the live server actually comes out. But I think I've heard that this actually has been bug reported and has been accepted already. So we'll see what happens. Other than that, it is all behind the armor, but there is something... So the armor of Yamato is a bit interesting and a bit difficult. Because you have these angled bits here, it means you cannot angle Yamato. You just cannot. Because if you angle, you'll just get penetrated here, you'll get detonated. If you go broadside, you're presenting flat sides. However, it is technically the best way to show your ship. You have to go broadside on to present your most armor, which is very counterintuitive and does make maneuvering a little bit difficult. But it is what you have to do with Yamato. You have to go broadside. Yeah, there is also this like quasi turtleback that's really high up. That could be a vulnerability. So it's a bit of a difficult ship at the moment. Oop, that was not what I wanted to click. I don't know if there is any armor behind that turtleback-ish structure. Reverse angling, you have the same problem. Because you have the same angled thing in the back as well. Which just leads directly to magazine. So it's, technically speaking, the best way to present your armor is to go flat broadside. Yeah, it's just... This is one of those cases where something might have worked in real life, especially with real-life engagement ranges and the way real-life combat went. In-game, it's a weakness. It just is. This is a core part of Yamato's armor design. C'est la vie. That is also... I'll get back to that, Krusty Crew. I'll get back to that. I just want to go over all the new ships first, but I'll get back to that. I will test sail Yamato, obviously. So let's do that.
Secure the ship for sea.
And just tracers all around.
Target identified. Torpedo bomber.
There. 6-0.
Already ripped the wing off. But yeah, I just love this ship. How can you not?
Action stations. Enemy
It is
Airborne
the
target
biggest battleship.
destroyed.
Its
Engine
performance at
blank
8.7, I would actually say, if it weren't for the guns, that this might be the weaker of the 8.7s. So, that, I don't know. I really like the guns on Yamato because they're incredibly accurate, and let's actually
Full stop.
line ourselves up against that battleship
Battleship.
for a little test fire.
260.
I do love that it is indeed just massive in the current camera. This is the default camera view. It's just the entire ship.
Midships.
The one thing I do like, of course, is though that if you go in the front, it's just gorgeous. But yeah, let me show you the accuracy of these guns, if we can get an accurate range. New gun sound as well. Although it's not that satisfying, the gun sounds of Yamato. Yeah, I'm not surprised that Yamato has a wrong third plane so many Japanese ships I do. But yeah, incredibly accurate guns, and honestly, actually a little bit too accurate for my liking. Because I'm not that great at long-range distance correction. So if you get your range wrong a little bit, your entire salvo will miss, just because it will hit the range you set. Another fun tidbit, at least for me, for Yamato, is that I think, excluding main guns, it is the heaviest high-explosive time fuse broadside of any ships. Because it gets 12 5-inch guns with TF. And the 6-inch guns also get TF. So it's a total of 18 heavy caliber guns with TF on a broadside. And I just love that. But yeah, Yamato. What I don't know, man. I'll get back to those kind of questions because I need to talk about the BRs and what happened. So yeah. I've heard about that NRR, but I need to look at that a bit closer. Might be, although the Iowa is putting up a close fight with its amount of anti-air guns. That's so. No, Reina, that is already a thing. That change already happened on April 1st. It has been a thing in game for the past 2 months. I don't know why it's in the dev server notes, because it's already a thing. So I don't know why it's part of the server notes. We'll get back to that. But yeah. I've also heard that the 16-inch shells of the Amagi got better. I'm not too familiar with the penetration values of these 16-inch shells, but I've heard they got improved. But yeah, I don't know. So yeah, that's a thing. We go to Italy with Roma, which I sadly cannot test sail because I thought it was going to be there, but either way I couldn't be able to test sail it. So yeah, their peak battleship also at 8.0, and you'll quickly understand why. Let's remove that filter. And the rate of fire. 1 round a minute to 1.3. That is the longest reload of any ship in game. No, I think even including the Bravi's launcher. So that is painfully slow. Other than that, I do like the look of the Roma. I love the just bank of 90 mils here. It's a cool looking ship armor-wise. I think it's not finished unless it also has that layered armor thing. It does. They need to do something about it so we can actually see. But yeah, so it's 70 millimeters and then a 280 millimeter belt behind it. It's a basic, and remember, so that's a basic crew reload of 60 seconds. A knocked out ammo elevator adds 10%, meaning 66. Repairing anything adds another big chunk of it. I don't know how much exactly. But this is easily the worst reload of any ship in game. Which is kind of sad to see, because I do like the look of the Roma, but yeah. Out of all the new battleships, probably the worst. So yeah. I know that they, in real life, they also did have a bad rate of fire, but they could have had mercy on the Italians. They could have, but they didn't. Let's look at the shells. Sap shells are good enough against cruisers and nothing else. AP is pretty good, but again won't be good enough against these new 8.7 monstrosities, but it's an 8.0, so it doesn't matter too much. So yeah. It is a decent 8.0 if it wasn't for that reload. Because that reload is going to be very difficult to work around. So yeah. And Sid Tasker, if I think Gneisenau will be good, I think Gneisenau will be alright. But I don't think it's worth the €80/$ price tag. And also, I would take my opinion with a grain of salt, because there's so much changing with battleship meta. I would wait like 2 or 3 weeks after the update comes out before you make any kind of battleship purchasing decision with real money. So yeah, Roma, a bit of a struggle bus of a battleship, but cool nonetheless. But yeah, we'll get back to battle ratings later. Then France with Richelieu, which does look quite promising to me at 8.3. It is a gorgeous ship in its full American anti-air suite. I'm not quite sure what the 100 mils fire. I hope it's VT. I'm not sure. I do find that the 15-inch guns look so stubby on this ship. But it might just be because the Richelieu is incredibly big. The ammunition is also pretty decently below the water, protected by fuel tanks. Let's actually see how far below the water. Not that far, and it's pretty wide, so plunging fire is still a weakness. Speaking of armor, it is this typical box that we expect to see from Dunkirk, so what you should do, is angle like this, angle like you would a tiger, angle the box. Do not, for the love of God, go straight bow in. That doesn't end well for this ship. Angle it. Other than that, it looks fairly promising, looks okay. 8.3 is understandable. What are the shells like, actually? So, big high explosive. The first AP is already pretty good. Not good enough against the new 8.7 monsters. The second AP is a lot better in terms of penetration. They didn't. Also because this is a bit of this is not something I know, but what I think about these half turrets. The half turrets are more like a survivability measure rather than an operability measure. Because if one half of the turret gets penetrated, the entire turret still might get jammed. But it just means that the other half of the turret doesn't get blown to bits as well. I think that's the main reason for it. It's not that one gets knocked out, the other one can still operate, although that's theoretically possible. I think it's just that one half gets knocked out, the other half can evacuate. But that's just my own opinion on that. But for as far as I know, it doesn't get the thing where half a turret can get knocked out and the rest operates normally. Technically, yeah, but the problem with kiting away with stuff like Richelieu is that the secondary magazine does still cause a very big hole and can cause rapid flooding. But yeah, theoretically it is better to kite away if you can do it. Although you might leave yourself a bit vulnerable to engine damage. I don't really know. I haven't played the Dunkirks enough. Yep. It is just Dunkirk and Strasbourg all over again. Just bigger, more armor, bigger guns, more guns. Well, more anti-air guns. It's a cool ship nonetheless. And now we'll get into the more interesting changes. So, first and foremost, as mentioned here, the anti-air nerf. So what they say in the patch notes, and let me just quickly find those again, and with quickly I probably mean like a minute or two. Where is it? So I'm going to read the patch notes verbatim because it's always the best idea. So here it is. The aiming and accuracy skills of AI gunners on ships have been corrected. Excessive accuracy has been greatly reduced due to the addition of possible errors made by the gunners in assessing the speed of the target, the distance to it, and other parameters. Now, the probability of an AI gunner shooting down an aircraft stays high only if the aircraft flies head-on to the gun, so straight at it, and does not maneuver. Approaching the target from the flanks, changing speed and altitude, and active maneuvering are now very likely to result in breaking through the target's air defense and successfully attacking it. In practice, from what I've noticed from playing against bots and playing against a few real players, this AA nerf is not that noticeable. You will still shoot down a lot of aircraft, you will still shoot them down at appreciable range, especially if you have high caliber VT or even TF. It just means that if you're flying at like 3 or 4 kilometers away from somebody, not even at them, but just in a circle around them, you won't magically get sniped out of the air with no warning. That is what it means in my eyes. It is... How do I say this? They're still very dangerous to lone aircraft, especially these new monstrosities of battleships with their hundreds of anti-air barrels. I haven't really properly tested it at lower BRs with lesser AA vehicles. But if you fly straight at somebody, you will still get shot down. But I believe if you're now circling at longer range waiting for an opportunity, you shouldn't get just your wing ripped off magically. I believe that's what it means. It's definitely a nerf, but it's not a big one, as it might sound. Then we have the detonation change. And the change is in quotation mark here because this change isn't new. As was mentioned earlier in this stream, and is mentioned here in the dev server notes, the calculation of the detonation force of ammunition magazines has been updated. The force of the explosion is now calculated based on the amount of explosive in the shells and charges. The less ammunition left in stowage, the weaker the explosion will be, and the less destruction it will cause to the ship. This change has already been implemented on April 1st. I do not know why it's in the dev server notes, because it's already implemented. It's already a thing. So, yeah. Then there is the flooding change, which I will again read practically verbatim. Changes have been made to the flooding and survivability systems. Issues in the formation of breaches from kinetic penetration of the sides from rupture. Issues in the formation of breaches from kinetic penetration of the sides and from ruptures by an explosion have been fixed. Previously, a rupture by an explosion could not always leave a breach, while kinetic penetration, even with small ammunition, constantly activated damage control systems. Now, breaches from kinetic penetration only by the largest shells lead to water intake. A breach by an explosion now has the correct dimensions, depending on its strength. In addition, the time for patching breaches for Blue Water Fleet ships has been changed. It was too short. Even large holes could be fixed in 1 to 5 seconds. Now, depending on the size, they are patched from 5 to 20 seconds. When talking about holes caused by shell explosions, the largest holes from torpedoes take even longer to repair. So in other words, breaches caused by small caliber shell fire shouldn't be nearly as common. Cough cough SKR-7 causing people to flood out in seconds. Breaches caused by bomb hits and large explosions like torpedoes should be more frequent and properly sized. And when these breaches do occur, they should take longer to close. I'm not opposed to this change. It does mean that breaches now have a very different effect, and they are a bit bigger of a priority in repairs. I don't see why you're seeing they're making ships stronger. They're making it so that low caliber shells shouldn't cause as many breaches as it did. Large caliber shells can still cause breaches. Explosives like bombs and torpedoes still cause breaches. And now it takes longer to repair the flooding. So I wouldn't say that's making the ship stronger at all, really. But yeah. Other than that, what do we have? Ammo depletion. There is now a new marker for when your ammo depletes. So when you get, for example, your shell room detonated, that turret circle will now have a marker saying there's no ammo in this turret anymore. That's very neat. You know, that you get... Because previously, if your turret was out of ammo, it would just show as loaded, but never fire. And this did cause confusion for quite a few people. So now, when you either run out of ammo by just firing, or you lose the ammo by detonation, it'll just have a little UI element saying this turret no longer has any ammunition. Very nice. So yeah. And now, the big one and the incredibly difficult one. VR changes. This is a really big topic. There are also some VR changes on the dev server itself, which I'll actually go over first, if you don't mind. And then we'll just dive straight into the decompression that happened. So, the following ships have moved from 6.7 to 7.0. Marlborough and Iron Duke. So, Marlborough and the Premium Iron Duke have moved up to 7.0. That's understandable, they are quite good. There's no changes to fires. Not that I've seen, at least. But continuing with the BR changes. USS Colorado, Tennessee, as well as Scharnhorst, Kronstadt, HMS Warspite, HMS Rodney, HMS Hood, Fuso, and Ise have moved from 7.0 to 7.3. So Hood moved up to 7.3, Scharnhorst moved up to 7.3, Tennessee and Colorado moved up, Fuso and Ise moved up. And Amagi and Mutsu moved up to 7-7. They also did get their 16-inch AP increased in performance, so that is understandable. They also have very short reloads, so it's understandable they moved up to 7-7. But now, here's the big one. 8.7 is the new maximum BR. Wild. I thought I was being optimistic with us getting 7-7 as the highest BR. 8-7 is completely wild. Because this now means that there are 2 full battle ratings where nothing but battleships can fight each other. So hopefully we will see some like relieving of the pressure off of the 6.0 cruisers. But it's wild to see this kind of decompression. It is still a bit weird that these 6... Part of me still finds it weird that these battleships are 6.0, the early ones. But I am 100% expecting a lot of decompression to happen over the few months. Because as you might have noticed with looking at the US tree, there is a very, very big battle rating gap, isn't there? Iowa literally has no lineup within 1 BR of it. Neither does, well, Bismarck does, because Scharnhorst moved up, but that's still a full BR lower than the Bismarck. And if you place Scharnhorst on its own, it will never face Yamato, Iowa, or Soyuz, so there's a lot of incentive to not up-tier these vehicles. The Russians, same thing. There's no lineup whatsoever. Great Britain does have more of a lineup, with the 7.3s being, you know, in par of the 8.0, but at the same time, why would you even use the 8.0? Because that'll just endanger you into bringing you into Iowa, Yamato, and Soyuz matches. So wouldn't you just stick to 7.3 and still have the same like performance as Vanguard? But it's weird. It's really weird to see these BRs and trying to think of lineups. Because the same with Yamato is okay. There is a bigger argument for just bringing Amagi and Mutsu up. But I have the difficulty now that when I want to grind Yamato, I have Kirishima. I am not going to put Kirishima and Amagi in the same lineup. That is wild. Because Kirishima will never face 8.7s or 8.3s. And those ships are going to be very, very, very popular in the next update. So this is strange. It is really weird how I'm going to approach grinding these ships. Italy, let's see what they have for a lineup. Same deal, it's a full BR lower for Diuli and Conte de Cavour. For arguably, are they even worse ships with the Roma's reload? I mean, would I really take Roma over the Duilios? And this is also something I still have to comprehend, is what am I facing at 7.0? So at 7.0, I face all of the things below. But at 7.0, I can get up-tiered to Gneisenau and Scharnhorst, but not Bismarck. So how many German players will be using Gneisenau and Scharnhorst, but not Bismarck in a lineup? How common will 7.7, 7.3 matchmaking be? Because if you look at Japan, 7.7 should be a pretty common matchmaking BR now. But how often will the ship get pulled up to 8.7? I don't know how many of you are familiar with the term black hole battle rating. So this is a term used in game for a battle rating that's incredibly popular and tends to drag other battle ratings to it for matchmaking. In Naval's case, this is 100% currently 7.0. 7.0 as the top tier is just very popular because it can dunk on lower battleships, it can dunk on lower tier cruisers. And there's nothing higher than it. It is the top BR. So 6.0s will often get dragged up into 7.0. But I don't yet know what battle rating will be the black hole battle rating this update. Will it be 8.0? Will it be 8.7, 8.3, 7.7? No clue. Also, Admiral Penguin. No changes to rank 7 RP costs, rank 6 RP costs. I haven't seen any. I'm also kind of surprised. But, on the other hand, there is only one rank 7 on each tree, so understandable, but I would still like to see them decreased. But yeah, that's what's happening. So it's going to be a really interesting time to discover battleship meta again, and I think that the like 2 or 3 weeks after the update are going to be the Wild West of trying to figure out what naval meta is, and what ships are going to be popular, what ships are going to be good, and which ones aren't. It's going to be strange. I think I might actually... You see, I still have 2 Russian 6.0s to spade, and I think I might actually... but I can't do that. That's another thing, right? That's another thing I'm going to be really annoyed about, because every single Blue Water tree got a new rank and a new ship in it. The research bonus. Everybody is going to lose the research bonus until they grind a new top tier ship. So I am practically obligated to get Yamato first, just so I have research bonuses for my other tech trees again. Well, it's either Yamato or Iowa, but obviously I'm going to get Yamato first. So I want to actually really play my Russian 6.0s first, just to see what 6.0 cruisers are going to be like. But there's no point in me doing it, because I just won't have a research bonus anymore. So I need to do the Yamato first. Also, somebody asked the Iowa research cost. 420,000 with... you have to double the SL costs, because it's dev server, everything's half off. My math is not mathing at the moment. So let me just get a calculator out. Even though that should be a really easy... So that is 1,150,000 SL for Iowa. And yeah, 1.7 to crew it as well. So 600,000, so 1.7 in total to buy and crew it. So it's a strange upgrade. And now an interesting thought experiment. Let's look at the aircraft. Let's look at the aircraft that are available at these battle ratings. So 7.0 to 8.7 for Japan. So the R2Y2s can finally see their debut, but you can't really use them unless it's of Yamato. The Alpha Jet you can use, the first F-86. I'm going to go nation by nation. I'm not that familiar with jets, so do forgive me if I'm just skipping over planes that might be incredibly potent. I'm not that familiar with them. So the Americans have the A4, the F-117, F-86s, more A4s, the Canberras, which can be quite dangerous. They have a lot of big bombs. Canberras might actually be one of the more dangerous ones. What does Germany get? F-84, G-91. But the thing is, a lot of these aren't dangerous bombers. The C-3 is not going to be a thing, but I think it was already a thing before. And nothing that dangerous. I'll check that. I'll check the British one later. Just give me a moment. What is the IL-28? That gets a big bomb as well, doesn't it? 3,000 kilo. TNT is 1,400 kilo TNT. I see the IL-28 becoming a very popular one. I see the IL-28 becoming very popular, but the rest is not that dangerous. Also, Lenny, I have good remark, but I don't think the stealth actually works against VT. I should test that actually. I should really test that soon, but I don't think it works like that. At least when I was doing a custom battle with a friend a while ago, and my Yamato had no problem taking out an F-117, but that of course is not VT. I mean, I think, you know, the best part of the F-117 is the fact that you could strike people outside of AA range. I honestly think that the best choice is actually one of the paveways, the 2,000 pound paveways, because if you just climb to like 6 kilometers up and you can keep these bombs guided, you will get reliable hits. Whether or not these bombs will kill ships is a different question, but this is going to be dangerous just because of the guidance system. It's also a lot easier to do than, for example, the Fritz Axis, and a lot more how do I say this? A lot more forgiving in terms of guidance. We could see some, but I'll get back to that as well, to the future of naval. So the USSR has Tu-14, Tu-4, but that's not really important. IL-20. I really expect the IL-28s to become very popular. But nothing in this... I could be incredibly wrong, but I don't think in terms of fighter bombers, there's nothing that dangerous. I think the actual jet bombers are going to be the most dangerous, but not the fighters we have at this BR. Yeah, that's another thing. The planes don't yet get a split battle rating from naval. Apparently, it did get mentioned in the dev stream that they were going to split the BRs depending on. But again, dev server, we'll see. I don't know. We'll see how that'll work. The other interesting bit actually here is that we shouldn't be looking at 8.7 for Germany, but 8.3. Although they might be able to bring up their 8.7s. But Britain, however, will not be able to bring 8.7s. So the Scimitar, but I don't think that's a payload. I don't think they actually have 8.7s or that much of a threat. Canberra apparently gets new bombs. I don't have any on the new ones. Does it get new bombs? This one just gets cannons. Just 1,000 pounders. What's the normal Canberra? I think the normal Canberra gets 2 cookies, doesn't it? Yeah, it gets 2 cookies. Which they're pretty dangerous, but yeah, I think the Canberra is going to be a solid choice. But the problem of taking the Canberra with your 8.0 Vanguard is you'll be up-tiering your Vanguard. So that means your matchmaking is going to be worse because you will no longer be able to fight 7.0s. You'll only be able to fight 7.3 and above. So is that worth it for a questionably accurate bomber? I don't know, really. So that's meta. That's all going to be figured out by people much better at planes than I am. But that's going to be interesting. I think I already looked at Japan, Italy. What did they get? Also an IL-28 at 8.0. That's going to be a good pick, I think. Other than that, nothing too dangerous. What does France get? The Vautour, do they get? Although only the interceptor, not the bomber. Yee. I don't think they actually get a jet bomber, do they, France? Does this thing have any good bombs? No. Okay. So France might be a bit screwed in terms of jet bombers. The others all have some interesting choices, but I'm of the opinion that the threat posed by aircraft is not that extreme, despite the extreme BR decompression. The one to look out for will be the F-117, though. But even then, I don't think it'll be that much of an issue, but we'll see. Can't wait for me to get blown up in my Yamato by an F-117 and just curse the thing's very existence. Now, what I want to talk about. This update and the next few updates for Naval. What I think will happen. In my view, this update, as I said earlier in the stream, is the biggest Naval update since New Power, which was roughly 5 years ago. And the main reason for that is, one, every single nation is getting their end-of-the-line battleship. Hooray. 2, this is a big milestone for Naval. This is... battleships have been implemented. They have gone from the earliest of battleships to the last ones. we are definitely going to get, I can almost guarantee it, we are going to see more battleships still. There are still there still very much are battleship classes to be added. Like, you know, South Dakota, North Carolina, KGV, Lion, G, and N3, H39. There are going to be more battleships to be added. I can guarantee it. But the battleship development has been quote unquote completed. So the big question now is, what's next? What are the next ships we will get hyped about? Because now let's say the next update will give us the filler, quote unquote, filler battleships. It'll backfill some of the battleship, close some of the gaps. Is that something we'll get excited about? Just seeing the North Carolina, South Dakota, is it something that'll be quote unquote marketable? Seeing more of the battleships. I'll still like seeing them. I'll obviously still like to see more battleships, more cruisers, more destroyers. More on that later as well. But in my opinion, my gut feeling is telling me we will get submarines by the end of the year. The testing has been so... We got a submarine event 2 years ago. In the December Q&A, they said they were working on submarines, but they couldn't tell us when. I'm looking forward to it. The other thing as well, for me, is that previously, for the past 5 years, you could always predict what would come next update. You could always predict, oh, we'll get another battleship, we'll get maybe a cruiser or two, we'll get some coastals, we'll get some destroyers, and maybe with a bit of luck, some decompression, we'll get, with the bigger battleship, some decompression. That's the feeling we've been having for the past 5 years. We'll get bigger battleships, we'll get higher BRs maybe, we'll get cruisers, destroyers, coastals. We'll just get more and more of the same stuff. But now, I could not tell you what is coming next update. I have no clue what is going to come next update. So, yeah. It's a very interesting time to be a naval player now. It's a very big update for that reason. And I'm incredibly excited to see what the next updates this year are going to hold, and the years after that. Whether they be submarines, aircraft carriers, or missile ships, I'm all for it. Mainly because I actually have my one of my favorite ships now. But yeah. That's really all I have to say about the naval part of this dev server. There are actually some more file leaks that I should go over. Let me actually just quickly look at them again. So in the files, let's see if I can actually put this up on the stream as well. And not just screw everything up again. So let's switch to a leak from the dev server files. So these are four things in the files. So another torpedo boat, an early one for Britain. I think that's actually one with a pump on the front. A early VTB with a 20 mm front for France. Yukikaze and a late AA fit for Japan with one of its rear turrets missing. Incredibly excited about that, especially as a Japanese main. The Kai-10 torpedo decoration really throws me off though. I have absolutely no idea what that's about, and I'm curious to see what's going to come of that. So let's get back to the stream. Yeah. That's really it for the naval part. If there is anything you want me to do on the dev server, is there anything you want me to look at, please ask me. I did also, out of my own interest, actually get the Japanese AA vehicle thing. Just to test it out, because it looks kind of cool. But if there's anything naval related, or even non-naval related, you just want me to look at, or take a look at, ask ahead. And I'll just read the chat and reply to anything I can see. So, Hans Cooks, about that torpedo guidance. I'm not the greatest fan of homing torpedoes as a concept, but we'll get to that We'll see when submarines get added, really. Please show the different camos. That's a good shout, Lenny. I'll do that. Although I can not, I don't think I can show you. I can only show it on Yamato because I only own Yamato. I haven't tested the new guns against Scharnhorst yet, but seeing as the Yamato, seeing as the 87s can just nuke each other, I think they have. Although, yeah, no, I should test that. I haven't yet, but I should. Trick, I'll do that soon as well. W Knight, could you give me some examples? Because I'm really not that familiar with that PR bracket of strike aircraft. But do give me some aircraft to look at, and I'll do look at them. I will look at them. I can try an AP one against the Yamato. I don't know anybody that has the Yamato except for me. Although, let's see, is one of my friends online? I might actually give him a shout, and we'll do some custom battle testing. So, anything else? Do you think we'll ever get better naval maps? Yes, if they actually add new maps. Because, and I looked into this a while ago, since New Power, so since 5 years ago, we have gotten 5 new maps. 3 of which are coastal exclusive. So, it's not really that, it's not that they add bad maps, it's just that they don't add any maps at all. So, yeah. So, yeah, no new naval maps on this one either. Let's look at the rotation speed, shall we? Let's actually look at the camos and rotation speed. So let's see about the Iowa again. Iowa is, if I can get that reset, 5.4 degrees a second. That's stock, I believe. I don't actually think the scale of Yamato's model looks too small. It dwarfs a lot of battleships. But yeah. And yeah, you can choose 8.7. You can choose 8.7 jets. So that is that horizontal guidance. Let's look at the strike aircraft for America still. I know the A4 has some goofy stuff, but I don't think it's actually that much of a threat. These are not big bombs. They're not going to do anything, not with explosive mass. These ones, that's not enough. A 2,000 pound bomb might be good, but it's dumb fire, so you need to be really close. Bulbs are not going to do anything. I don't think the strike aircrafts are going to be that much of a bigger threat than already existing payloads. And yeah, it is 8.7 is the max. I don't think it's 9.0, but I believe it's 8.7. I could, you know what, I could actually try that. Just give me a moment. Let's look at the other battleships first for third rotation speed. Let's look. So the Bismarck's third rotation. That's 5.1 stock. Gneisenau should be the same. Yep. And the Russians are also 5.1 Sevastopol, but that's to be expected. Soyuz is 3.9. So kind of slowish. Then Britain's Vanguard is 1.7. That's British 15-inch turrets for you. Then we go to the Yamato, which I do have upgraded. So let me actually remove that upgrade to show you the stock speed. So 1.7. Actually close to the Vanguard then. And with the modification, that's 2.0. And whilst I'm here, I can actually look at the camouflages for Yamato, because I do own it. I can't for the other ones, I'm very sorry. So this is actually a standard camo for Yamato, this kind of stark grey. And yeah. Then you have the dark green, which I was using. Then we have the tricolor, which I think looks very good in Yamato. You definitely need to play a bit with the scaling, because the normal scale is, yeah, you can see the repeating texture with the normal scaling on these new battleships. Oh, can you? I'll do that. I'll do that, Vega. Look at that. Ooh. But yeah, that's the thing. I'll do that. I didn't know that was a thing, Lenny. I'm very sorry. Let's do that actually. Oh, you can? Okay, okay. I didn't know that was a thing. Sorry. So yeah, the nice dark blue. Tricolor. I can't adjust the scaling of it though, but I can preview you the default camos, I guess. This one actually looks pretty good on the Iowa. All very slick. And we go to Germany. Although I don't think you'd ever really want to get rid of the standard camo on this one. You can go dark gray, bicolor, and the tricolor spotted, and the tricolor geometric. But I think the standard camo is probably the one you want to rock on the Gneisenau. Then we have Bismarck, with its dark gray. It's bicolor, tricolor spotted, and tricolor geometric. Then we have the Russians. Let's look at that. You might want to actually get rid of this one, but I kind of like this blue and purple. But I've heard other people not like it. And they also have a grayish. That one. That one. And that one. Ooh, good. Interesting then. Stefan. I didn't know that about Gneisenau. I'm not that familiar with the with actual battleship history. What are you talking about, Striker? Because Germany does have Bismarck. And the only difference between it and Tirpitz are torpedoes, to my knowledge. And nothing is excluding that we'll still get Tirpitz at some point. But yeah. Great Britain with Vanguard. Unicolor yellow. Bicolor, the multicolor. I quite like the British multicolor. And then bicolor striped, which is also kind of good. But I do prefer the multicolor. I think the free options for the British ships are kind of meh. The yellow just doesn't fit. But well, I'm going to Japan, which I think I just showed you, Yamato, didn't I? So yeah. Italy, we go to Roma with its... Oh, it actually has pretty fast turrets. 5.1 degrees stock. Pretty good. Pretty good. But yeah, anyways, I think we'll get Tirpitz in the near-ish future anyways. We'll see. I am actually kind of curious if we're going to get a lot of those gap filler battleships this year still, or if they're going to be further down the line. But we'll find out. Anyways, Unicolor is this turquoise looking color. That's kind of neat. Bicolor geometric. Tricolor. And tricolor striped. I think submarines this year. Yep. That might be copium on my end, but I believe there will be submarines this year. Also a lovely candy cane bow. Then we go to France with Richelieu. And its turret rotation speed of 4.2. And the camouflages are unicolor, which is the pink. Bicolor deforming, which is kind of good. You can, yeah, you can with all the ships, can't you? You scale the candy cane bow. Just okay. Tricolor wavy is actually kind of nice, and tricolor geometric is meh. Not a fan of yellow. I wouldn't really call Harana better than the regular Congo. It's just more AA. So yeah. But if that's really the case, Stefan, I would actually really like to see that armament as well in Gneisenau. Because it being like a ununified secondary battery is a bit awkward. Though I don't know if that would be better. Actually, something I want to do, because this has been a question. Can you launch a float plane from this ship? Does it have a float plane, actually? It does. And I'm actually curious how this float plane launches. So let's do that first. We need to be in reference. We are in reference. Let's do daytime. There we go. It should, but I've seen people wonder
Secure the ship
how
for sea.
you launch the plane through the cranes.
Enemy vessel sunk.
Bomber! Ahead!
So the AA is definitely less accurate,
Action station.
but
Enemy
it's
spotted.
still it'll do the job.
Airborne
There we
target
go.
destroyed.
So let's see.
Get the spotter in the air.
So that doesn't really look physically possible, does it? Yeah, I know that the crane is meant to be facing down, but it doesn't, so... Through the crane I go. Okay, it can launch the plane. Can I? I mean, yeah, it does just need to be moved and, like, stowed. Yeah, the crane, I think, in real life would just, like, turn around and lower as well to just stow. So it's fine. What questions did I also get? I needed to do some testing, didn't I? Also, I skipped over the question that somebody asked. Do you think they'll add playable aircraft carriers? Probably, at some point. I wouldn't see that happening in the first 2 years, though, perfectly honest. I 100% expect to see aircraft carriers, like their gameplay mechanics, to be an April Fool's event first, before actual gameplay tests. And then based on that, we'll see. I do have a video on the topic of aircraft carriers, and it's a... I personally would like to see carriers, but it's a difficult topic. Carriers are real difficult. Way more difficult than submarines or even missile ships, in my opinion. Iowa scout plane. Let's take a look at that. Yeah.
All hands to battle
Although,
station.
weren't there a bunch of, like, conversions planned for German ocean liners? Although I don't know if those were World War I things or not.
Ahead. 2,000 feet.
Action station. Enemy spotted. Launch the
It's a
spotter
sheer
plane.
wall event here.
Airborne target
Let's
destroyed.
see what this scout plane's all about. Yeah, this should be a much better performance aircraft for American ships. There is a World War II Russian carrier concept. I don't know if it ever got laid down. I also mentioned that in the carrier video. I think it's Project 71. I could be wrong, but I do believe that. I do believe that that was a thing. Yeah, a high performance scout plane. Gets 250 cals. Very nice to see. I think the E-13 is still a bit quicker than this, but it's definitely better than the old Kingfishers. Yeah, it's yeah. That's also something that I brought up in that video, Striker, is that balancing for carriers is definitely the most difficult part, and I don't know how to do it. Because you have carriers with different plane counts, what BR do you give them, how do you prevent player-spawned aircraft from just dunking on those air groups? It's difficult. It's a difficult topic. I have a whole separate video on it. I recommend you watch that to get my full view on it. It is old. It is not my best work if I were to do it again. But I do still stand by what I mentioned in that video. If even though some things might be a little bit incorrect. True. Let's actually see Yamato's. Actually, no. Let's do Iowa's. Let's just test sail and slam that way all the way to minimum. Let's see if it changes the Yamorax.
All hands to battle stations.
Yeah, this definitely have changeable ammo racks. Compartmentalized ammo racks. Actually, you can check if a ship has compartmentalized ammo racks by looking in the hangar. Let's look at Bismarck. Let's look at X-ray. Let's just filter to just ammo. And if... Although this dev server might not be complete. Let's just sell it then and slam it all the way to minimum. Because normally you can actually see the individual compartments.
Action stations, man your posts.
But it seems to be the case that they carry less ammo. As I can't really tell with Bismarck. Flashdog, interesting name, but that exists and that is called Enduring Confrontation. That game would exist, that has big maps. Carriers would 100% work on it. The thing about carrier balance, Fiegel, I understand that as... I'm not going to assume that you are a World of Warships player, but a lot of us are familiar with World of Warships and how they did carriers. I don't think that is even possible to do in War Thunder, how they did carriers. But yeah. Yes, W Knight, but what is the biggest bomb it carries? Because if it can carry a total payload of that many kilograms, but if the individual bomb needs to be powerful enough to actually punch through armor. I didn't actually do a proper test of that buddy of mine though. You know, I think this only calls for one thing, and that is actually properly testing it, but that's a lot of armor on top of the deck. And that is not like deck level armor either. What's the hull? 25? So it'll probably armor HE bombs. Does it have another armor layer below it? No. Yeah, you definitely need AP bombs. And AP bombs are not easy to use. I believe... Let me look at the A4E again. It is the A4E, yeah, you mentioned. But it doesn't have 1 2000 kilo bombs, it has 1 2000 pound bombs, which is half that weight. So let's just preview it. Let's go to modifications. So it has 500 pound bombs, which will do nothing. Snake Eyes, which will do nothing. Snake Eyes will do nothing. 250 pound bombs will do nothing. Incendiaries won't do anything. 1000 pound bombs. 272 kilograms of TNT equivalent with a maximum armor penetration effect of 94 millimeters. Won't do shit. So a 1000 pound HE bomb like this just will not do anything to these battleships. It might knock out the hull segments for the unsinkability mechanic, but it won't kill them. Same with this. What about the 2000 pounder? 117. Nope, doesn't pen. The AP bomb. Actually, is that an AP bomb? What's the difference between these two? I'm confused as to what the difference between these two is. Because I usually thought that blue ring meant AP bomb, but it doesn't have any penetration mechanics. Let's actually look at Fritz X, what it says in terms of penetration. Let's see, Fritz X. So it, flat on, it only has 191 millimeters of pen at 5 kilometers. That is the wrong button I pressed. Can I get... Yeah, so 5 kilometers. And that would not pen the Yamato. Also, actually, let's look at the British one again. Canberra, the cookies. So the cookies have 209 millimeters of high explosive penetration. So they could just about pen Yamato's deck, but that is if they actually get through the main deck first and then to the armored deck. Well, the thing is, if you go above 5 kilometers, you would survive indefinitely, because AI gunners cannot hit anything beyond 5 kilometers, to my knowledge. So, I might be wrong, and this will definitely require testing on the live server. I don't think I have anybody online that can quickly help me out with AP bombs. But I do not believe, despite the high raise in maximum BR, that any of the new bombers and aircraft pose a significant threat to the maximum BR ships. Or new threats even. The only one I would look out for is the F-117, just because it can get hits reliably and accurately. So yeah, the only one I would be slightly concerned about would be F-117. That is the ground tree, not the air tree. So we'll look at its modifications. It has two 2,000-pound bombs, right? Which are guided. So this one, maximum armor penetration of 117. And this one is 95. These, yeah. Are these the right bombs? Or is this one the... No, this is 1,000-pound. So I might be wrong. I would be entirely wrong. I could be entirely wrong, and that these things will actually become really dangerous to the new ships. But I just don't think they have the raw damage output required compared to just another battleship killing you. So let's look at other 8.7 maximum, right? So strike plane has the little sideways diamond. America has the F-3D, is already a plane we see. The F-84, does it carry any significant armament? 2,000 pounders, same deal. If you can place them well, I don't know if they still have the same mining effect if you drop them in the water next to a ship, but meh. So these A4s, do they have anything different? No. Just more 2,000 pounders. And yeah, more 2,000 pounders. Other than that, I'm not seeing anything. Germany. Okay, but it's a normal. The Yabo might be kind of interesting, but it's not going to be any payload we haven't seen yet. 500 kilo bomb is laughably small for these kind of ships. Although that's the 7.0, so... Yeah, no, 500 kilo bomb is not going to do much against even 7.0 battleships. Cruisers, sure, but not battleships. This is going to be the same deal, isn't it? Yeah, 2,000 pound bombs. Hello, arterial. What is the penetration of this thing's 3,000 kilo bomb? 183. What's the deck armor of the other 8.7s? Actually, is that an 8.7? It's an 8.0. Ooh, spicy. That is again the wrong tree I'm looking at. Deck armor is 2 layers. That's never going to get through. Because it'll just blow up on the surface because it's not an AP bomb. Let me look at the Ju-288 because I am indeed overlooking it. Because the thing is, I'm only really looking at the new threats because of the BR increase. I have seen quite a few Ju-88s, but Ju-288s, but I've not often seen them actually reach their target. Secondary armament, 3,500. See, that flat out pans the deck of these battleships. If it can reach down far enough. There has been no mention of any maps that I've seen, at least. And of course, they also have AP bombs, but you need to be incredibly high for these AP bombs to actually work, so I wouldn't bother with those. Any new threats? Oh, 3000 kilo we've seen is pretty close to dangerous. This will just be more of the same bombs. What does the Tu-18 actually carry in terms of bombs? Also 3000. And the torpedo, which... So that's a lot of below drop speed. Let me look at the Key 48. Thank you for reminding me again, because I did kind of forget your earlier question. Let me look at that, but I don't think it is. Unless you are godlike with the aiming of it at very long range. I doubt it. 400? No, you're not going through the belt of the new ships. A lot of the new ships have thicker belt armor than that, and even then, I'm unsure if the heat jet would actually get deep enough inside of a ship to do anything. So I don't think that's viable against these battleships. I was looking at planes. Did I look at the penetration of the cookies? I did, didn't I? 209, barely. Any strike aircraft here? Not really. Nope. Japan has a few different things. These ones doesn't get any big bombs, does it? 82, 82, 82, 82. No. Torp protection is a bit strange, because you don't really need torp protection. I don't know how these ships will fare against 4-meter depth torpedoes. I just don't, and I can't really test it either. 4 meters should probably still do it. There's no there is actually some torpedo protection mentioned, but many torps will actually surpass that, and it can get shot off anyways. What silence? I need to get back on the topic of map sizes, but I'll get back to that. I was still looking at aircraft. Italy, strike aircraft. Nothing new. That's really dangerous. France, I already checked, also doesn't have anything new. I think this one just gets 1,000 pounders, doesn't it? Yeah, that's nothing new. So yeah. On the topic of the maps. I find maps to be a bit of a difficult topic as well, because the main reason why our current maps are quote-unquote shit is because they're just very old maps that shouldn't really belong in the kind of BR ranges that we see them at. So if I go actually look at the map pools, like this is a 5.0 map. So this is the same map you will see with the first light cruisers and now 8-7 battleships. The exact same map. That shouldn't be the case. Same for this, apparently. And this, and this. Although this is actually a pretty good battleship map, in my opinion. This also is a... It's just... Yeah, what can you really say? They're just old maps that were not designed for battleships. And because they don't add new maps that are designed for battleships, they can't really filter, mix, and match. So it's just... Yeah. I don't think... No. The thing is, the fix is not increasing the size of maps. Because they're not designed around... They're just plainly not designed around it. In terms of cover, in terms of pathing, in terms of objectives. Although that's a whole different kettle of fish. I think they just need to add more maps, or a simple increase in size won't do it, in my opinion. That just won't be the problem. Won't solve the problem. It's definitely something... It's... So now we did get decompression. I hope we'll see more an expansion upon the decompression we got with the new maximum BR. We probably will. But their next major focus in terms of playability should definitely be maps, like purpose-built maps for battleships and late cruisers-ish. But yeah, so like some maps that I think are actually really good for battleships are this New Zealand Cape, although it's a bit gamey as well. South Kvarken used to be really good when it actually had islands in the south, but oh well. What other map do you have? So South Kvarken, New Zealand Cape, Palau, one of my personal favorites for big battleships, because you can spawn fairly well protected and just get all in those islands. So Palau, Kvarken, and New Zealand Cape are like the only maps that seem to be properly designed for cruisers and battleships. And that's it. It's only those 3 maps. And the open ocean maps are lazy, to be perfectly honest. Just lazy maps. That's the thing, Cactus. Palau used to have more islands that covered the map, but it doesn't. Where's Palau again? So this island cluster around C used to be a lot more dense, and then they just removed a bunch of them for no reason. I do also not like the fact that you spawn like looking at each other up north. The spawns should definitely be... You know what I think, actually? Remove the 2 spawns, just put 1 spawn in the middle. And there you go. Map fixed. At least in my opinion. And maybe even move the coastal spawns to like be more central rather than northern. And I think that would already improve Palau by a lot. Yeah, exactly, Trick. Exactly. Well, that's also something I think they mentioned in the Russian dev stream, is that they still find it difficult to properly, how to say this, engineer the pacing of battleship gameplay. And I fully understand that. Battleship gameplay is not supposed to be quick and dirty. It's not supposed to be quick and easy. But for a video game where somebody has to basically be able to just jump into a match, play 1 or 2 games a day, and that's it. They have to make adjustments for that. They have to make compromises for that. And yeah, I think that has been rough for battleships. Well, not necessarily, Cactus, but it does take hours. Or the better part of an hour. But yeah, it's just... I don't know. Maps definitely need some more love. I think I will... You do need to give them credit. In terms of coastal and destroyer maps, very well designed. I believe I thoroughly enjoy all of the maps when I'm playing purely destroyers and coastals. I think they're all pretty well designed. It's just that for cruisers and especially battleships, their different design doctrine, so to say, is noticeable. And that's just a flaw of their old... Because that's something everybody needs to know, right? Is that the game, naval itself, as a whole, was designed from the ground up with the thought that nothing bigger than a destroyer was ever going to be added. Hence the map designs. The thing is, when this was announced that they weren't planning on anything bigger than destroyers, a huge amount of public backlash. Huge amounts of it. But the thing is, despite how much I love cruisers and battleships, you can see why they didn't want anything bigger than destroyer. The gameplay is much faster, it's much more suitable to the other game modes in terms of pace. It's understandable. It's a bit sad that they had to change, but at the same time I think they've took it pretty well, although it's just the map design shows this difference in early design philosophy. Yep, exactly, Striker. Let me just quickly look at some questions I might have missed. Oh, the World War mode. Hold on. The World War mode on the dev server. Is that a thing again? Is it this one? So this is always a thing on dev server for some reason. That's just what it is. It's just... It doesn't actually mean anything. It's been on the previous dev servers as well. So I wouldn't be too worried about it. I would like to see it return because I do think World War mode is a pretty fun game mode to just take a break from the normal grinding. But we haven't heard of it in a long time, so we'll have to wait and see. I mean, yeah, that's another thing. A personal theory I have is that, so naval got announced, only PT boats, maybe frigates, maybe destroyers. Major public backlash, major content creator backlash. That was a big part of it as well. A lot of the big CCs saw it and said, oh, that's not going to be fun. Then the naval CBTs on Alpha that started. The big CCs tried making videos. It was clunky, it was rough. They were only interested in the big boats. So, like, a lot of public interest nosedived. And it just hasn't recovered since, really. And it's a shame. Because the game mode itself isn't that bad. It does have flaws, but what game mode doesn't in this game? But yeah. Other questions that I'm looking over. Integrating a naval and ground into an event game mode. So, perfectly honestly, I wouldn't want to be in a tank. Because, let's actually test sail my Yamato again. And load some HE shells. Do you see the HE penetration on those shells? Like, I wouldn't want to be in a tank, like, under fire from these ships. Especially since some of them can fire really quickly. Yeah. I think, honestly, I would like to see it. I have done some events with ships supporting ground. The air sim community, from Crab. Yeah, Crabs, I think. They did a Iwo Jima event a long time, well, not a long time, a while ago. And it's really fun to be a ship supporting ground units. And I think it's also kind of fun for the ground units to see a big ship just blasting away with all their cannons. But a normal PvP mission that's supposed to be balanced, I don't see that happening too quickly. Yeah, something like that. I think there could be potential if you just mess around with it. Yeah, Reina, there is indeed like a Tiger that took a direct hit, or a Panzer IV, I think, that took a hit from a Nelson and just there's nothing left but tracks, basically. Anything else? But yeah. So any other questions about dev server stuff? Even non-naval stuff that you just quickly wanted me to take a look at? Because otherwise, I think we'll be close to, yeah, just finishing the stream, really. And I think in the meantime, also just wait for... I am in the iNavy server, yep. I was there. I rejoined that server recently because of their EC roundtable thingy that I participated in. But I'm in that server, yeah. Let me just quickly test drive this SPEA thing, because why not? Let me showcase it.
Into your vehicles! Ready up!
Driver ready.
Ready.
I'm talismaning Yamato either way. I think I'm in Ty's server. I should be. Yeah, I definitely am in Ty's server. So... let me just quickly check if I'm not lying to you. But yeah, no, I'm in his server as well.
Advance!
Roger, advancing.
It might be wasted, but I am a Japanese man. I am going to get a talisman on Yamato and spade it as quickly as possible. I do not care if it's a waste.
Scout
That's what I'm going to
launch.
do. But yeah. But this AA system's kind of cool. Yep, there we go. My radar is too big though. Ah, that's the wrong one. It's just really cool that you can just deploy units.
Scout launch.
Sure thing, Cactus. And it will fire from both as well if you get a lock, which is fun. And the fact you can just change between them on the fly. There was when the teaser trailer went live, there was some speculation that this might also mean that we'll see some AI squadrons for aircraft and naval. I don't see that happening immediately, but yeah. I am not really a tighter ground player, so I don't really care that much about this stuff. I do see some, not really griefing, but some shenanigans going on with these vehicles, for sure. But yeah. I have actually, one of my buddies has the German multi-vehicle SAM system, and that is so scary. Also, there's this new radar mode thing that is really wild. Okay, it'll give you the target number. It'll give you this radar screen is wild to me. It's just so much information. But you can fully just still fire missiles, fire everything. And I am once again going to don the tinfoil hat. Maybe a precursor to a carrier control screen. Who knows? But that's full on tinfoil hatting from me. But yeah. But this screen is interesting.
Advance.
Both missiles. One of the missiles just went haywire. I'm more than willing to read them, Cactus. But I don't immediately see the problem with the carriers, but I'm more than willing to read them. And again, I don't think carriers will be anytime soon either way. And I do see some problems with them as well. But we'll see. We'll find out whenever they come, if they come. No problem. Well, no, because the thing is, you cannot compare how World of Warships implements a ship class like that to what War Thunder would do, because I just blatantly don't think they would ever do something similar like that. Do I still have missiles left? I do in this one. Yeah, exactly. It's a lesson in what not to do, but I don't think that means it's impossible for others to add them. I will say the radar tracking doesn't seem to update all that frequently on this Tansam. But still. It works. Yep, that one missed though. And yeah. I think this is just a cool vehicle, cool concept. I'm curious to see what's going to happen with that, with multi-vehicle SAMs in the future. I 100% agree. I think it is much easier to add anti-ship missiles and its related systems than it is a carrier. Same with submarines. I believe both of those are way more, way easier. And yes, Cactus, I am. Same as my username. But yeah. So again, if there are any more questions, if there's anything you want to see, ask now. And That might be it. Sure, Cactus. I will look at that later because I don't look at Discord whilst I'm streaming, but I'll look at it later. Well, if one of you is actually on the dev server, I could do it now. If somebody has the has Scharnhorst. New flipping for what trick? Because we already looked at the American one. General opinion on the update as a whole. I'm incredibly excited for the update itself and the one that comes after. I'll just I'll test fly the Iowa again. Test fly the Iowa's flip plane. Whilst I'm talking. Sure thing, Cactus. Yeah, I am incredibly excited for this update. I think it's a really, I wouldn't say good update. There's still room to grow, but it promises a lot for the future. It implies a lot for the future. I don't know. I'm just optimistic about it. Like, I believe there's much more to be excited about for this update, rather than to be worried about. Oh, look, this thing has wing slats. Cool. Have they? And you cannot swap out the belts for the anti-air armament. I think it's just the default belts on other ships. Yeah, cool, fast, quick little plane. Still think the E-13 is actually quicker than this, but that's fine. Some 50 cals. Ah, yeah, the spaced armor. I'll show that H3 in a bit. Yeah, I'm pretty agile. I think this is a nice plane to get. Be a bit more competitive compared to the Kingfisher. I'm really not that worried about this update because, and I said this when we got the battleship leaks, the worst possible scenario for this update is just more of the same. It's just more of the same of how naval has always been. That is how I'm seeing it. And yeah, that's basically it. Basically, that's also what it is. It is just more of the same, but the decompression is really big, and that has me excited. And the other part that has me excited is the fact that this is the pinnacle of battleship design. This means that we will now slowly but surely move on to other ship designs, or maybe even more filling out the remaining battleships, filling out more cruisers maybe, because I still have some Japanese cruisers I really like to see. But yeah, I'm excited for this update just for what the future will hold, basically. Yeah, it's a bit. But I definitely think we'll see more decompression in the following updates, though, with more of the 7.0s and stuff moving up. As a whole, I think I'm not that familiar with floatplanes, but I definitely rank this third, if not higher. The E-13 is still faster than this, to my knowledge, although this is getting close to it. And the German floatplane has better armament, but this is definitely among them in terms of good floatplanes. I have heard about the diving shells, but I'm not good with below waterline shells. I've never been good with that. There was a period of time where that was the meta previously, I've never been able to pull it off consistently. So I'm definitely going to be able to do that now. I can try them though. If the... Yeah, let me try Mutsu. Let's see if I can get some below waterline hits. But what it was going to do... Now, the thing is, the new player experience is not because of map design. It is not bad because of map design. It is bad because of seal clubbing and just how much shit naval will throw at your face with no proper explanation. It is not map design that is bad for the new players, because new players are... I've seen a few recently in the naval chat in some servers. For the first few weeks, they do not get higher than 5.3 if they do blue water. So, the map design for battleships is not the new player experience that you need to be worried about. It is just how difficult it is to actually learn how to sink ships. That is the killer for new players. They have said that they're not going to add beehive shells just because it's too much strain on the servers with the amount of fragmentation they'd have to model. I would still love to see some normal flak rounds instead, but oh well. And yeah, these ships will get ammo racked because of the map ranges. But then again, that is just battleship meta. As I said, at worst, this update is just more of the same. And it's already better than that because of decompression. So, I don't see anything bad with this update. Let's try some diving shells with the Mutsu. We have that cracked ammo loaded. PT-95 is the only coastal at the moment. There are 2 more coastals in the files. A British coastal with a pom-pom on the front and a French coastal with a 20 mil on the front. Like nothing big, all low-tier coastals.
Action stations. Enemy spotted. Target identified. Light cruiser.
The thing is, that is not W9. That is not how maps are getting introduced to people. That is not the map design for new players. Because the map you're describing, big flat and no cover. Sure, destroyers can have quite a few maps that are no cover, but a lot of those maps you can get into cover quite quickly, if you know to get into cover. I think it would be more apt to describe it as a big flat open battleground with rocks scattered around here and there. The experienced players know what rocks to go for, what rocks to shoot, actually provide cover, and what rocks they can shoot after, or shoot behind, whilst new players will not know that. That is the issue. Sure. But at a base level, big open maps, that is not the new player problem. That is high tier problem, but not new player problem. Also, let's see if I can actually do this. Yes, at 4 meter depth. They very much can. At 4 meter depth, long lances can still damage these battleships.
Ammunition storage.
Well, that's
Explosion.
interesting. Of course, I didn't quite see where that shell landed. But it did definitely look like a diving shell. Let's try the Omaha.
Target identified.
So let's get the exact range, and we'll get a bit shorter.
7,000 meters.
Yeah, the 460mm gun sound is a little bit anemic, just a little bit. That was 2 for forward. There are definitely not new... I think there are a lot of new and returning players. I could. There is... W-Knight, I genuinely have to disagree with you. On new player maps, there is plenty of cover to go to. And I'm going to look at that, right? So, for new players, I'm looking at Reserve BR to 5.0. 5.3. Arguably by 5.3 you should already know kind of what you're doing, so you're not that new of a player, but fresh players, is we can't filter by BR, can we? This has cover. This is 4.0 plus. And you do spawn next to islands, but they're not tall islands. This one has plenty of cover. You actually can't see each other from spawn to spawn, from what I remember. This one is a pretty good destroyer map, but kind of open. This one can have good cover if you know. Okay, now I do have to agree with you. If you know where you're going, you have cover. If you don't, you will sail out in the open. Now I am seeing that and recognizing that. PG doesn't really have cover, but sightlines block you kind of, so people don't prioritize people they can't see. This one I haven't actually played on Destroyer in ages, but seeing as I think there's a destroyer spawn up here and up here, so it's not that bad. That's 5 plus, 4 plus. This one is atrocious for destroyers because they changed the way cover works. This one is goated for destroyers. This one is a bit awkward. This one is good. I'd say among the better for early tier, but also rough. Yeah, but W Knight, that's a problem for anybody. That's a problem for every game mode. If you buy a top tier jet, if you buy a top tier tank, you're going to get shit on no matter what if you're a new player. That's just what happens if you buy a new the high tier battleship or high tier premium. So I would not argue that that is the new player experience you need to work towards or need to anticipate. Yes, it is a thing people do, but that's just that's a problem in every game mode. That is not a naval specific one. Does it need to be addressed? I don't think you can, really. Yeah, I'm sorry about the squeak sounds. This chair is just like that. This is a good destroyer map, quite fun. The problem I have as well with trying to decide what a good early destroyer map is I have a lot of experience. I know what to do, I know where to go, I know what to shoot, and I know what to focus. I have had, unironically, I have the main reason why my Hoquium is spaded is because I faced 3.3 players that genuinely did not know what to do. I have fought destroyers that did not fire a single shot. And yes, I did check if they were bots, and yes, I did check if they were genuine human players with human names and human behavior. I have fought human players and destroyers that didn't fire a single salvo in Hoquium. So yeah. But part of that problem is the naval split, in my opinion. That is part of the problem. They did the naval split because it attracted more people, because hey, we can get the big boats immediately, and then the new players get shit on by experienced players in 4.7s, and even experienced players in just top tier coastals, and yeah. It's just... Yeah, I will have to agree the new player experience for naval isn't good. And there is definitely improvement they can do. But I wouldn't just call all maps are open ocean. That is an exaggeration. The things I have, I've played with a few new players semi recently. I've seen how they experience naval and how they experience stuff. And how do you describe it really? I've seen people that really like playing naval for the first time. I've seen people grow to like naval. I've seen people that dislike naval after they've tried it. And the problem is I don't know what people think of when they start playing naval, because I started playing years ago. I'm committed at this point. But the thing is, Reina, you don't have to drag the mouse up and down. You don't. Let me do Fuso Umutsu again for... Of course, I'm talking about realistic battles. I have no experience with arcade, and if anything, I think arcade is a lost hope at this point, but that's my opinion. But you don't have to drag the mouse up and down at all.
8-0. 5,000
So let's just...
Torpedo bomber! Ahead!
Get the guns on targets first.
Action stations. Enemy spotted.
And up we go, up we go, up we go. And we're at Omaha, I believe. I straddled that shot, but I hope you can understand what I'm trying to say here. You don't need to move the mouse up and down at all. I should try that again. You'll also probably see something funky going on with the... Oh, interesting. Okay. But yeah, you don't need to move the mouse up and down at all. That, however, is a valid argument. The control setting, where is it? This needs to be a default keybind. The fact that it isn't is wild for realistic battles. And there goes the creaky chair again, forgive me. I think, W Knight, what you're describing there is Fields of Poland, or Eastern European province. But they have soft cover. That's, I think, the problem with naval, is with the way the gunnery works and with the lock-on system, you can't really have soft cover. I think in naval in general, you can't really have soft cover. Although, on the topic of soft cover, how many of you played the Battle of Jutland event during April Fools, when we did the World War I event? Because I played 1 or 2 matches in it, and there was something very interesting about it, and that's the fact that there were low clouds / rain squalls moving across the battlefield. So you would have... Yeah, but Trick, you play on like an ancient laptop, don't you? But anyways, you would have these low, like, sea level clouds move across the battlefield, and they would obscure vision. They wouldn't break lock, but they would make it really hard to really get accurate fire, because you couldn't really see the enemy ship anymore. You couldn't see their heading, their course, their position towards your ship. And I found it really interesting that they had moving cloud cover at sea level. And I'm curious to see if that's going to make a return. Either as a different kind of mechanic or anything else. Yeah, it's something like fog, but actual...
Identified.
It moved. It was very quick. It was just clouds moving across the battlefield very quickly. So you'd have a period of like a minute where you had clear vision. Cloud would move in. You could no longer have clear vision. And then 30 seconds later, the cloud would pass again. And I thought that was really, really interesting on that event. But yeah, let's see if that's more diving shell action.
Powder room, hit!
I hit the ammunition. If it was a direct hit or a diving shell, I don't know, but I hit it. Didn't do anything, but I did hit it. I think, in general, smoke screens need to be reworked. They're way too short to be effective. I think if you could make smoke screens
Shells on target.
last way longer, that would already change a lot. Although, that could become very annoying as well if the whole team just smoked up everything and you couldn't see anything anymore. But at the same time, might be interesting. But yeah, smoke screens need to last longer. I think I'm just... The thing is, right, and this has always been my complaint, well, my gripe with the diving shell ammo rack meta. Of course, this is a cruiser, so it doesn't really apply, but what is stopping him from just shooting his engines? Instead of trying to get this very niche shell hit. Like the same thing with these,
Battleship.
a normal battleship.
260.
I can just pen a North Dakota normally, so I don't need to go for diving shells. Of course, on the new battleships, you might have to. But even though, I don't really think so. It's going to be an interesting mechanic to work around, but I don't think it's going to be that how to say this, that's game changing. Is there anything else I need to talk about? Also, I think somebody else was asked earlier, but they might no longer be here. The reload rate on Yamato. Kind of slow. I could have sworn I've read somewhere that Yamato had a sub 30-second reload. Yeah, that's something I have also noticed. A lot of maps are actually BR capped, although I don't think a lot of them are BR capped at 7.0 anyways. But these open ocean maps with these new 8.7s are something. I think in general they just need more maps. I would be fine with most of the maps if they just stayed as is, but I just need more maps actually properly designed. So let's actually just listen to the 18.1 inch again.
Secure the ship for sea. Torpedo bomber! Ahead!
But the funniest thing about that is Ghost Ring. Is
Enemy spotted.
Yamato's guns will never be high elevation in game. Because of the combat ranges, of course. Okay, now my cursor's going off all the way over there. But let's see, can I get a targeting point? No. The gun elevation isn't that high, but oh well. They use reload rates as balancing factors anyways.
Engines, flank speed. Helm, hard aport. Hard aport, aye.
Let's get a rear turret in the action.
Helm midships, aye.
But I cannot wait to get this, to get Yamato on the live server. Because with the new ships, so many custom battle ideas. I already know that one of the sim guys that works with Crabs and Wingling has basically said that he wants to work on a 10 Go, an Operation 10 Go custom battle, and that's gonna be peak. I would, especially unironically, I think with the AA nerfs, that air versus ship customs are going to be so much more fun and engaging. Despite the no, actually, I think the AA nerf is fine. Even if it's technically worse for the ships, I think it's fine. Also, Derek, this is not the normal camo. This is an unlockable camo. I just like it more than the default camo. Let me show you the default camo in a bit. Pardon me. But yeah, that is the firing sign of the 46 centimeter. Let's get the default camo actually. That striker, you know why that is? It's because the float plane only works on naval maps. Because the float plane isn't an actual vehicle, it isn't an actual unlockable vehicle. It's only activated in maps made for ships. So basically only these maps and their variants. So even if you were to take like an air EC map, and yeah, float planes don't work on it because it isn't supposed to have ship spawns on it. I'm not sure if it's maybe something in the CDK you have to enable, but yeah. So, H3, that's also a thing. With the AA nerf, I've noticed that the AI gunners tend to, at least on Yamato, tend to go for multiple targets. I was playing in a custom battle with a friend earlier today, just me and him in a Iowa and Yamato against a bunch of AI aircraft. And we'd noticed them shooting at two different planes, even if they were on the same half of the ship. And even more interestingly to me, is the Yamato's 5-inch guns would shoot at a different target than the 25s. Despite both being in range of the 25s. So that's something interesting. They don't really do it too well. They still focus on one target until it's dead before switching. But it looks a little bit different, a little bit of a tweak. But yeah, this is default cam of Yamato. And I think that is also, yeah, with the worst condition. And there it is, brand new. Yeah, it's not much of a nerf.
To battle station.
To my knowledge, basically what it does, it makes planes not be as likely to just get sniped out of the air whilst flying like 4 kilometers away from somebody circling, so it doesn't just rip their wing off with one hit. I think that's basically what the nerf did,
Enemy spotted.
because it's still effective enough.
Destroyed.
Yeah, I'm very sorry if you have played it multiple times over the night. I'm very bad with remembering names. I don't think that's that much of a huge mistake. As I said before, the worst this update can be is just more of the same. How it always has been, and that's kind of what happened with the maps, so... But that's just my viewpoint of it. Yes, they could have improved the maps, and they probably should in the future, or at least add more battleship proper maps. But yeah. And yeah, Yamato does look exceptionally good. I can't wait to actually get it on the live server. What do you mean with that exactly, Philip? Philip Hagen? Do you mean the talisman? I think all of the 8-7s are worth a talisman. I believe all of the 8-7s are equally as competitive. Yeah, I believe all of the 8-7s are. The 8-3s, I'm not entirely sure. Because again, I don't know what kind of BRs will be more favored in the actual matchmaking. But I definitely would consider talismaning the 8-7s. You know what I think the problem is with that gun stand? It just doesn't last long enough. Did I see some shells bounce? I did, okay. Yeah, a naval test drive rework could be quite nice as well. That would be incredibly fun, Ghost, but I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon. I don't know if it's right or not, but it's... I think that's already very big. Yeah. I think I'm going to leave it at that for tonight, unless there's any last minute questions coming in. So to quickly give my summary again, I'm looking forward to this update. I'm looking forward to this update. I'm looking forward to all the following updates. I have torped a new BB. I've torped a Roma to test its torpedo protection with the Akazuki. The long lance at 4 meter depth will still ruin a Roma, so yeah. Roma does have a float plane. Good mention. It does have a float plane. It should have a float plane. I guess it doesn't. I thought it was supposed to get a float plane. Dev server stuff, you know. So yeah. Thank you all for watching. And the first one I'm going to research is definitely Yamato. But yeah, so exciting update. Excited for the next 3 updates this year. Can't wait. Curious to see how BR decompression is going to happen. And all in all, thank you for watching. I'll see you next week with probably coastals, because I just cannot get myself to actually play battleships on the live server anymore. But yeah, I will see you all next week.